Good afternoon, everyone. Today we'll be discussing an important topic in networking: IP addresses, URLs, and domain names. We'll explore what IP addresses are, the difference between static and dynamic IPs, and how domain names work with DNS to enable web browsing. So, IP addresses. An IP address is a unique identifier assigned to each device on the network. It allows devices to communicate with each other on the internet or local network. There are two types of IP addresses, IPv4 and IPv6. Internet Protocol version 4 and Internet Protocol version 6 respectively. IPv4 is most commonly used and consists of 4 sets of numbers, while IPv6 is more advanced version that provides a larger address space with 128-bit addresses. Then coming to static IP addresses, a static IP address is fixed and manually assigned to a device. It does not change over time, which makes it ideal for devices that require constant communication or remote access, such as web servers and email servers. The advantage is that it's reliable, but the disadvantage is that it can be more vulnerable to security threats because it is always the same. Then we have dynamic IP address. Dynamic IP address, on the other hand, is temporary and changes regularly. Dynamic IP address is assigned by a DHCP server and can change periodically. Dynamic IPs are most commonly used for home networks, and their key advantage is security, as the IP address keeps changing. However, this can cause connectivity issues if a device requires a constant IP for specific applications. Then coming to the differences between static and dynamic IPs. To summarize the differences, static IP is permanent, suitable for servers and devices that need constant access but may be more vulnerable. And dynamic IP is temporary, efficient for home users and changes periodically, offering more security but less consistency. Now, URLs. Let's move on to URLs. URL, Uniform Resource Locator, is the web address you type into a browser to access websites. The URL provides the protocol, the domain name, and sometimes the path to specific pages or resources on the website. The structure of a URL is very important in navigating the web correctly. Here is an example of a URL. The protocol is this HTTPS, indicating that it is a secure connection. The domain name is www.example.com and the path is about us, which directs to the specific page about the organization. Now, domain names. Domain name is a user-friendly address used to access websites, replacing the need to memorize numerical IP addresses. Domain name is basically a human-readable address used to access websites, eliminating the need to remember numerical IP addresses. Domain name typically consists of a top-level domain such as .com or .org and a second-level domain SLD like example in example.com. Sometimes there are also subdomains like www. Then domain name registration. To use a domain name, it must be registered with the domain registrar. The process involves choosing a name, registering it, and then pointing it to a server's IP address using DNS settings. Popular domain registrars include GoDaddy, Namecheap, and Google Domains. Then We have domain name system. The domain name system is essentially the phone book of the internet. It is responsible for translating human readable domain names into machine readable IP addresses. Without DNS, we would have to remember numerical IP addresses for all the websites we visit. How DNS resolves domain names? Here is how DNS works. You type a URL like www.example.com into your browser. Then the browser queries the DNS resolver to find the corresponding IP address. The resolver checks with several DNS servers, root DNS, TLD DNS, and authoritative DNS until it gets the correct IP address. Finally, the browser uses that IP address to load the website. This process usually takes milliseconds. DNS record types. There are several types of DNS records. A record maps a domain name to an IPv4 address. AAA record maps the domain name to an IPv6 address. MX record specifies mail exchange servers for a domain. CNAME record allows one domain to alias other. NS record identifies which DNS servers are authoritative for a domain. Then DNS caching. To improve performance, DNS responses are cached for a period of time. This caching means that once the DNS lookup for a domain is done, it doesn't have to be repeated every time you visit the same site. The duration for which the information is cached is specified by the TTL time to live setting, which reduces load times for frequently visited websites. So, in summary, we have covered IP addresses, the unique identifiers for devices on a network, static versus dynamic IPs. Static IPs are fixed while dynamic IPs can change periodically. URLs, web addresses that direct you to resources on the internet. Domain names and DNS, the system that translates domain names to IP addresses to ensure smooth web browsing. Thank you.